That is amazing. And tell me, I love the fact that it was written over 5 years ago. And I mean, you co-wrote with two amazing people. So there were several versions of the song. What did the first version look like, and how did it progress to what it is today?
I gotta like it's such a beautiful story, and it's bittersweet, obviously, because Busby fought for this song. This was the second song we wrote in the room that day, and I was exhausted because I'd come off the road, and I was Troy Verges and I were on the road before that, and we were writing. We had written like 7 songs in 2 days. In the 2 days prior, I had my dog with me, so I was really stressed out. And but I was in the room with Busby and Barry Dean. Like that combination is magic. And I think I just like I really look up to the writers that I get to write with here in town because they're all incredibly just so gifted and so gracious with their time with me when we create together. And so we'd written a song that I had brought in like pieces of, and we went out to get coffee, and I was assuming that that was the end of the writing session. And Busby said, "Well, you guys want to go back and get another one?" And you don't say no. And I jumped back in the car. I was late for my friend's surprise party, um, birthday party, but I just felt like I had to be there and I had to write. And so I sat at the piano and I played the first notes of the song, just kind of like messing around. And I sang the first line of the chorus, "Tell me what to do about it," because I had no idea what to write. And the more we talked about like that concept of tell me what to do about it, how do we make that into a song? I think the more we realized we needed to write a song about grief and how your world can just flip upside down in an instant. So um, I loved the song, but I also didn't feel like I had my own reservations with the song, I think. And Busby fought for it. And Busby finished the demo, like came to the studio, surprised me one afternoon, texted me and was like, "I'm coming to the studio. We're recording a vocal. We're finishing this demo." And we did. We finished the demo and it was just piano and strings. He and Dave Davidson did the string section together. And it was just piano, vocal, and strings. And we loved that. We just, we wanted a little bit more out of it. And so we obviously added several other, elements. But it's what I love is I think the song taught me a lot in that my reservations were so irrelevant. And I think it allowed me to open up to the way that songs impact other people and taught me how to take in perspective on songs and the way that other people receive them.
Wow, that's incredible. I'd really be curious to hear the original demo to what it is today, just to see how it did progress. That's really interesting.
One of my favorite things is that the vocal is still the demo vocal. I wanted to re-sing it several times and everybody fought me on it. And the same thing happened with Invisible. It's happened multiple times. And I've grown accustomed to just like a being, hours, hundreds of vocal takes that we do to achieve the sound that we're going for. And then listening to the demo vocal and saying, it's just that's it. We just need to leave it alone. It has the emotion, it's there, it's storytelling.
Yeah. And since that was written in 2016, what was the first song written for this project, and how did that influence you sequencing the album?
Well, what I thought was the first song written for this project, because this is the first time I've done this, is I think it's the first time I gave myself license to do this. Normally, I would write hundreds of songs. I'd bring it into a room with about 20 people, and we'd all vote. And there'd be like an Excel sheet on who likes what song and how much this weighs, like all that kind of craziness. And this was the first time that I I said, I want a theme. I want to be intentional. I know what I want to write about. And Wild Blue was an album title that I'd had in my phone for years. And I wanted to write about how change can feel like flying. I've always wanted to have a flying dream. And I think that was my goal, was to get through the change in such a way where I felt free and not afraid of the future. And so the first song I wrote, I thought, was Wild Blue. But technically the oldest song on the album ended up being Preacher. It was a song that I had kind of like kept to myself and only really let a few people in my close sort of circle hear it. And again, in the final track listing, to be honest, my manager fought for the song and said, you should really consider it. And the more that I did consider it, the more that it felt like it needed to be on the album, and the more that it felt like it was part of the Wobbly story of change. So yeah, that's technically the oldest song. And again, it's a song that I loved. I was just like, for so long, I was like, this album's about change. I can't sing about love. But then I was like, no, I think I need to, because that's part of change, is the sort of like um, the new beginning, you know?
Yeah, it all fit perfectly. I could not tell that was written between all the different time periods. That is incredible. And I just wanted to talk a little bit about No, because that is my personal favorite. Do you have a fun fact about
Nice.
its creation or anything you could tell us?
Honestly, that was another one that I loved and I didn't know where it fit. And I think I was just coming at it from such a different perspective. And yeah, same kind of story, you know. My manager really fought for that song and we talked about it a lot, and I worked on it a ton, and it always stayed close. Like Preacher, again, like these songs just seemed to keep staying close. You know, it's one thing when you like you write a song or you demo a song, and as an artist you decide like, this isn't part of my story right now, or I can't speak to this right now, um or just like it doesn't fit the vision for the thing. But there are songs that just stay close, and you keep bringing them up, you keep working on them. I keep, you know, opening up the Logic session and staying up until 4 messing with them, right? So that was one of those songs, and I kept messing around with it. And um I decided to bring in the band that I had toured with for a couple years, the Network, to come and play on it, because I wanted that live band energy on it. So yeah, we got in the studio and we did. That's like that and Loving You are the two songs on the album that were tracked quite traditionally, because it was just like the band in a room, which I really loved, and it gives me a lot of just happiness to know that those guys are on this album, because I got to tour with them. We have a lot of memories together. We've played almost all the songs on this album live at some point. And yeah, it just felt like having the family on the album.
That's amazing. So I was also
Yeah.
gonna. I read that you wrote some of this solo and then maybe progressed into a co-write. But how do you approach a song compared to writing solo, compared to starting with a co-write? Is it different for you?
It is very. In fact, like I don't even like. I thought I'd forgotten how to write solo, and the two songs that I wrote by myself on this album, One Shot, um, like that was I had a write that got canceled, and I felt irresponsible for not writing anyway. And I pulled out the craziest musical idea that I have. I go in with pieces. I go in with like, you know, musical snippets. I go in with, you know, lyrical things on notes. Sometimes it's just titles. Sometimes it's just like questions. Sometimes it's half a song. What If I Do has a funny story, because I wrote it by myself, actually just here in this apartment. And it was just kind of like it was a fun, like easy song to write. I hadn't written a love song in a while, and it came very naturally and very quickly, and I loved writing it. And but it was one of those things, because I'd written it by myself, I had no validation, and I just like immediately dismissed it, because I was like, it was too easy, like it can't be good. And so I took the chorus in with other writers that I love writing with, and I was like, okay, so I love this concept, but like, what should we do with the concept? Should it be like, you know, should we try this angle or should we try this angle? And we wrote another song around the chorus. And then when my team heard both both versions, you know, they kept gravitating towards the one that I wrote by myself, which was really flattering, and also just like I think a level of validation I wasn't willing to give myself in the song. And the more I worked on it, the more I felt like, you know, this is part of my lineage. This is part of my like album history. We have Still Fallen. We have going back earlier to Only If You Told Me To. There's always been those kinds of songs, and that's part of my sound. And um, I want to keep that door open. I want to keep that sound as part of something that I do. So, yeah, that I love the story of that song, because it almost slipped. These are again, you know, times where the thinking, you know, kind of got in the way of the feeling of it.
Oh, that's amazing. And I mean, since you are living in California and Tennessee, do you think the vibes of each place play a part in your music at all?
Absolutely. I think the scenery, the change of pace, the change of lifestyle. I feel really inspired being there. I think, you know, I really struggle with giving myself freedom to, I don't know, I just really struggle with taking time off, I guess. And it's not as much like taking time off as it is just like giving myself a break in mental ways. And California has been a great place for me to do that. Tennessee was also that, I think, during lockdown. Um, you know, I got on my scooter and rode around a bit more, and California it kind of felt like a vacation when I got there, and felt like a new start, a new beginning. So I think it freed a lot of previous filters and things that, again, I just wasn't allowing myself to do or think or imagine. And I think just the change of pace, because we were all forced into, this sort of like totally different lifestyle. It really makes you examine like what you need, what fires you up, what inspires you, what moves you, what doesn't, what you need to get rid of. So I think that was a very dramatic version of figuring that out. Also, being in a city with so many creatives from so many different um, walks of life and stories and perspectives totally changed the way that I work and the way that I look at the music that I make, which was really inspiring. And again, all of this lending even more so to the feeling of freedom that I was going for.
And one of the things I really admire about your music, especially this record, is that you can tell it's your sound, but at the same time, I hear little different, maybe, I don't know if you want to call them like subgenre influences throughout the record. And one of the things I saw on Spotify and Apple Music was that your music is on so many different genre playlists. So I wanted to get your take on the whole genre thing. Do you want to classify yourself, or do you think they matter nowadays since we're in a playlist and radio culture?
It's so funny because for so long that was such a like a triggering conversation, because like while there's so much, and to be honest, it still is, because I care about the fact that I've experienced an incredible amount of success, specifically under the country genre. Um, and I had a great chat with an iconic artist that I really look up to, and he just kind of made me aware of the fact. He was like, you'll see over a longer period of time that that is never going to leave what you do, but you don't have to strictly classify yourself as anything. And I think that opened my eyes, because all of my favorite artists, all of my favorite bands, um, always just take me on a journey. Every time I hear a new album that is not at all what I expected, it tends to be it tends to be my favorite, because it feels adventurous, and you can hear it, you can feel the adventure, you can hear the discovery. And I think that's what we go to music for, is it's a bit of an escape with pieces of our reality, right? So I think the more I've worked on this album, this has been an effort of me saying it's okay to try, it's okay to do all of it. And if I do what I love to do, which is, I was really flattered when you said subgenres, because I do feel like there's a lot of things that I include in my music, and I don't want to box myself in. And I don't think that the people, what I've learned from my fans is they also like when I don't box myself in. So I think it's given me freedom. I think it's given me like that creative license, if you will. It's allowed me to allow myself to be more creative and try more things. And honestly, if I'm doing my job right, I think every album will have a slightly different sound to it, a slightly different, feel. I kind of see them as movies, and I love that. That's what I love about making music, is the challenge of finding that new thing. Um, not just recreating what you've done before. So I love that challenge, and I love that sense of adventure, and I want that to be part of what I do.
Yeah. I like how you said like a movie, because if I had to describe your album, it would kind of be like thematic, but also storytelling would just be like the two words I would use. But
Love. Thank you.
so also, I really appreciate your TikToks, and I love that you give advice to songwriters. Also, your Legos too, but the songwriter advice. And one of the things you mentioned was just writing down everything, even when it seems silly or odd at the moment. Was there ever something you pulled from that you just thought was crazy in the moment when you wrote it, but then came back to and realized, oh my gosh, this could be a song?
For sure. Um, I put what if I do in that category, because it was literally just like started out as a question. Um, yeah, there have been a lot. Um, there have been a lot of things that I thought, honestly, like almost every song on Wild Blue, because a lot of times, when I walk into a room to write with people, I kind of like I offer I start with where I'm at, and this is what I'd like to write with, or this is an idea that I have, but I have no idea where to pull from to like create this concept. And there's obviously collaboration in the room. These people that I write with, they have their own stories too, and sometimes they want to share, and they're willing to share more of their story. So I guess I'm just saying all this to give credit that A lot of it happens just in the room when, either three people are all pulling in a different direction, or everyone's in sync and has experienced. Like I just I love when I when I walk into a co-write and I'm, wanting to write something that everyone says like, yeah, I went through that 8 years ago. And even though it's 8 years ago, you can still access your memories about it. And you can write about it as if it's a new story. And I don't know, I love that challenge. And I think every song on this album has surprised me because like I can remember how nuts I thought One Shot was, but I was like, I still like it. It's fun and it's goofy. And that's the point. I haven't really done a whole lot of that and I want to do more of it. Um, Dear God being such an intense conversation with Andy and David. And then, you know, going from a song that I think that's the one that surprised me the most because I didn't think that my team, I thought that they would hear it and say, "This is a beautiful song, but it's too much. It's too much to share with the world." And contrary, the entire team at the time said, "This is the most important thing you have, and this is the thing that people need to hear the most." And it really opened up a lot of doors, and it changed a lot of things for me, and what I feel willing to write about, willing to share, and it's also allowed me to be part of so many like mental wellness conversations, and um, I love that being part of what I do. So I think, yeah, Dear God, I would, if I had to choose one, I would say that Dear God was the biggest lesson on this album.
Amazing. Kind of going left field here, but also on your TikTok. I saw that you just watched Mean Girls for the first time. And I just need to know what your thoughts were. Why did you wait that long? Since, I mean, it's pretty present in culture.
It's been happening a lot this year. I'm realizing how much I haven't experienced, how many movies I haven't watched, and if I'm being honest, I'm getting a lot of shit for it. So I'm trying to catch up at this point, and luckily I have good friends who are willing to rewatch things with me. Um, it's a long list. It's a long list. I love consuming. It's so funny to me because I love consuming things and I love watching movies. I love being moved, and I love series too because again, it's the challenge of storytelling. I think I see parallels with series on TV because as an artist, like, you write something now again, like everything we've been talking about, like you write something 6 years ago. How do you make it fit with the story? Why does it matter in the story? Oh, that's why it matters. It needs to be there. Here's how we tell it, right? So I don't know. I love, it's like a lesson in storytelling. And to be honest, I kind of ran out of things to watch, or I thought I'd run out of things to watch, and that comes in the conversation as well when everybody reminds me of all the things that I haven't seen. I don't know. I like, that's one of my favorite things is consuming stories, watching movies and being moved.
What else is on your list that you have to watch?
Oh man, there's a lot of like classics, um older movies. I don't know, you put me on the spot, I can't think right now. I'll come up with a list and get back to you.
Okay. That's amazing. So I know live music is making a return. You return to it. Are you planning any tour dates? Are you thinking of what your set list would look like now that you have so much new music?
I'm dreaming. I'm also dreaming too, like I've always loved like filmmaking. I feel funny saying that because I'm not qualified to say that, but the way that I paid for music gear in middle school was being a wedding videographer, and I was obsessed with like making independent films, and I've always loved that. So I think a lot in terms of visuals, and I love set design, lighting, things like that. So I've definitely been manifesting my next tour since we stopped touring. And I also opened up to like, man, there's so many songs that like, I've been lucky to put out a lot of music, and there's so many songs that don't make it to the show anymore. And I've also learned to be more, to have more fun with the set list because there's a lot of songs that we don't play because I don't think the fans want to hear it, and I'm very wrong. So I've been just kind of dreaming of how to bring like older projects to life in visual formats, and I think the lockdown kind of forced a lot of people to be more creative when it came to visual shows. So that really excites me. I love the thought of designing something for a lens, and then I love having that as a guide to translate into how make people feel something. Let's make a really awesome roller coaster of a live show. So yeah, that's I have been dreaming about it, and I can't wait to get back on. I'm very, very anxious to get back on. Not anxious. I'm ready to be on the road.
And I mean, you spoke about there. I mean, you can't really get the notoriety with every single song. Is there a song in your repertoire that you would have loved to either become a single or maybe get more notoriety among fans?
That's a great question. I honestly, I think selfishly, I kind of did it because there were certain songs on Wild Blue that I felt like we kind of glossed over, and so I think that's one of the things that makes me really happy about the complete is that by telling the whole story, I feel like certain songs will make more sense, um, or maybe people will go and listen to them again because there's also new material. But I also like when I look at Preacher, when I look at Tell Me, selfishly, those 6 songs were the songs that I was like, I feel like these need attention. I want people to hear these songs. I want people to pick which their favorite because those new 6 songs definitely you know cross a lot of territory. So yeah, I'm happy to just finally have them out. And specifically, I think um, no, all 6 of them. Yeah,
Yeah,
equally.
that works